So let's look at the tools and materials we'll need this time. We have a jury stick for transferring our guidelines. We still have our Type S mortar mix and water, along with a mixing bit and our mortaring trowel. We have a hammer to tap the stones into place. Now we'll need to cut some of our stones to size, so we have an angle grinder with a diamond wheel to do that. We have our safety gear over here. We have gloves, goggles, hearing protection, and a mask. And then to finish our mortar work, we have a grout bag and a 3/8" trowel to finish the joints. All right, now speaking of the stones, I've laid them out like a puzzle in roughly the pattern I want them, just to make sure that they'll fit. Now I'm going to have to make some cuts, but that's okay. I'll just do that as soon as I have the exact measurements. So the first thing I want to do is transfer the guidelines over to the actual wall. That'll make sure our stones stay level and tight. So I'm going to use this jury stick, which I'll mark all along its length. Then I can transfer the guidelines over. All right, time to do some mortar work. So just add your water a little bit at a time to your mortar mix. Now we're going for a nice middle ground in terms of consistency. If it's too dry and crumbly or too thin, it won't hold. So you just want a thick, creamy consistency. There we go. All right, I'm going to use my long trowel to apply some mortar to the wall here. I'm just going to do a small area. Then I'm going to apply mortar to the back of my stone. Sort of apply that evenly all the way around. Kind of rotate it as you go. Great. Now I'm going to apply the stone to the wall. You just want to push it in, kind of give it a little twist, make sure it gets in there good. And now just tap it with the end of your hammer. Some of the mortar is going to come out. You can clean that up in a bit. And then just sort of hold it there for a few seconds, make sure that it sticks. Now you'll notice that I've staggered the stones so that there are no big vertical gaps. And then you can also use a piece of wood just to check your edges, make sure everything's where it needs to be, and then you can do the same across the top as well to make sure that they're level. Now if you had any corner pieces, you would apply those first, but since I don't, I'm just starting from the bottom and working my way up. So now we need to cut some stones. Now the thing to remember is that the attractive part of the stone is the face and not the cut edge. So when we install these, we want to be sure that the cut edge is facing a corner or towards the bottom, just somewhere out of the main eye line. Now you'll notice that I'm doing this step outside because these stones throw off a lot of dust when they're being cut. I'm going to be using an angle grinder with a diamond wheel, and that should cut through the stones very easily. Also, and this is very important, I've used a clamp here to clamp the stone down to my surface and make sure it doesn't move. Eye and ear protection are key, and you will definitely want to use a dust mask. Now before I put this piece into place, I'm just going to put a little mortar over the cut edge just to hide the cut. All right, it's looking great. Now this type of stone doesn't use grout per se, but we are going to use this grout bag to put mortar in the joints that need it. Now if you need to clean off any excess mortar, don't do it right away because it'll smear. And if you use water or a sponge or anything like that, it'll cause a film on the stones that you can't get off. So just wait for it to dry to the consistency of cookie dough. It'll take about a half an hour, and then you can just brush it off with your dry brush. To finish it off, you want to smooth the mortar in between the stones. Now I'm using a 3/8" trowel to do this. You could also use a wooden stick. Now's a good time to install the box extender we talked about in part 1. Standard box extenders will typically accommodate a depth of about 1.5 inches. The stone we're using is a little thicker than that, so I'm going to contact an electrician to bring our outlet flush with our new stone wall. All right, our wall is done and it looks fantastic. Now after the mortar is totally dried, you can clean the wall using soap and water. Avoid any chemical cleaners because they could damage the mortar. So, by prepping our work surface in advance and keeping our stones straight, we have turned a plain wall into a beautiful addition to our kitchen. And by taking your time and just following these steps carefully, you can do the same in your home.